So the main event for UFC 257 is Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. Hot sauce versus whiskey. I go back and forth on this fight. I genuinely, we've seen it, and I don't know how much has changed. So let's go through it. Nick, I know you know both these fighters pretty well, obviously professionally, and have an opinion on them. Who do you think wins this fight? How do you think this fight goes? Did you draft either one of them?
I mean, you gotta pick the main event always because it's 5 rounds. It gives you more time to work. A lot of the other guys at the top are, to me, a better value and more worth the risk. Now, Conor's knocked out Dustin before. He's proven that he can do it. He's done it. They were both at 45. Dustin was a little more depleted. He wasn't the same fighter, but Conor also was very sucked out and cut a lot of weight for that too. So that argument doesn't hold as much weight with me because they're both going to be a little more, they're going to have a little more in the tank at 55. But what I've seen in these fights is Conor could knock him out early. He could catch him, right? But down the stretch, I feel like the fight favors Dustin. If he can make it ugly and wear Conor out, he can score some heavy points. So I went with Poirier, and I might be the only person here that did that, unless some of you double up on him for this. But I did not draft Conor because I felt there were other people that were more of a guarantee for that value to get that first round knockout, that first round finish that he would go for. And I don't see him as scoring a lot of points over 5 rounds. When I see Dustin, especially at 7,100, could score a lot of points over 5 rounds and really muck it up, get takedowns, land a lot of punches, ground and pound, stuff like that. And maybe even finish later in the fight, where Conor, my bet would be that first round knockout if it was anything. And I think there's other people that are more apt to do that on this card. So, I like Dustin. I'm a big fan. I actually think Conor's a great guy too, from everything he does, but I drafted Poirier for this fight.
So you picked Dustin in, you think he'll actually win the fight, and you put him in your lineup?
I think he's motivated. I think it's a coin flip of a fight, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm just picking him because I want him to win. I like him as a person, and I think he has a lot of heart, and it would be a good thing to see him get that win back. But if someone was like, you're crazy, I'm picking Conor, I would understand that as well.
Well, I picked Dustin. I put him in my lineup. I think I put him for 2 reasons. One, $7,100 is nuts. If you're talking $7,100 for a 5-round main event, and it's not somebody versus Cyborg or somebody versus, Shevchenko, Dustin Poirier can, and I think will win this fight. For the good of the division and the good of the sport, maybe Conor needs to win, right? You need a belt around Conor to really just jack some numbers up. But I think Dustin wins the fight. I think that their first fight was so long ago, and so many things have changed. Since that fight, obviously Conor turned into a wild superstar, but Dustin progressively got better and better and better. And who you lose to? Khabib. Who doesn't lose to Khabib? So I think Dustin actually wins the fight. I think overall he's the more well-rounded fighter. Conor's got crazy power somehow, like unbelievable power, and his boxing is great, but I just think Dustin does it. I think that Dan Hooker win was a great bounce back win for him. I think he really got into the thick of it. He traded strikes with a great striker, and he really made that work for him. And I think he also left that fight feeling good about himself, right? He's not, if this was immediately after the Khabib loss, I don't know. You know what I mean? Coming off of a tough loss like that, right into a rematch with somebody who beat you before, I don't know. But coming off of that win with Dan Hooker, Conor hasn't fought in over a year. He just got sued yesterday for a ton of money. I actually don't think that's a factor. I think that's just noise, and he's so used to that by now. But I actually think Dustin wins this fight, both in regular fight world, and I put him in my lineup. Dan, did you grab your ATT brethren, or are you going with
No, of course I did. Yeah, I grabbed Dustin. So it's funny. I was going to do the same thing as you, Newell, because one, I think Poirier is going to win this fight. And same thing in DraftKings. The odds on this fight are just stupid. Like, Poirier is like a plus 300 underdog or close to it. Like, that is not what the number should be on this fight. So I bet on him. I'm rooting for him. I took him in DraftKings. I did double up just because I do think there's a chance that this could be a striking fest that goes, into the later rounds. And I think that's where Poirier will get a finish. But overall, another thing too on that, when I was considering taking Poirier and not taking McGregor, McGregor 9,100, Poirier 7,100. You add them both together, you divide by 2. Would you take either of these guys for $8,100? That's the way I looked at it. You get both of them for $8,100. Now you're going to get a loser out of it, but man, I think there's going to be a lot of action, especially early. That's when McGregor's certainly most dangerous. The one thing I'll say about McGregor that, because I early in his career, I bet against McGregor all the time. I was like, oh, this is going to be the fight. He's going to get exposed. He just has that it factor, and he shines in big moments, and he rises to the occasion. So he's got that in him. And that's one of those intangibles that you can't put your finger on. You can't analyze it. He just has it. But I think Poirier, over the last however many years since they last fought, I mean, the guys fought literally the murderer's row. Eddie Alvarez twice, Justin Gaethje, Max. Think about this: Max Holloway. He manhandled Max Holloway, and I know there's a 10-pound weight difference, but Nick, 10 pounds doesn't make that big of a difference. The way Max Holloway just destroyed Tar, who they were saying was the best boxer in the division, I think that shows something about Poirier. So I think Poirier it's gonna be a close first couple rounds, and 3, 4, and 5. Poirier is going to turn it on. McGregor's going to tire him, and Poirier is going to get the finish. An X factor from a game plan standpoint. I have no idea if this is going to happen at all. But if I were Poirier, I would potentially think about coming out in the first round and shooting some takedowns just to tie things up, get a little lactic acid, break up that explosion that McGregor has, that timing early on, and then in the later rounds, wear him down. So no idea if that's going to happen, but either way, I think it's going to be a great fight. I hope Poirier wins, but I got both in my lineup.
Yeah, I couldn't afford both. So I only have Dustin. My lineup could not afford Conor. And I wasn't going to rearrange the whole thing to get Conor because, yeah, I mean, if Conor wins, it's going to be a ton of points because I doubt Conor wins a decision. But I couldn't afford him. I genuinely think Dustin will win. So, Jacob, you're a skinny ginger. You grow your beard out. You pretend to be Conor McGregor sometimes. Did you go that route, or did you following the rest of us and going with Dustin?
See that Conor beard?
Yeah, no, that's dead ring.
So I'm a huge Conor fan. I have been for a long time. I think even before I even got into UFC, I've only been a UFC fan for maybe 4 or 5 years now. One of the first UFC people I saw he was on SportsCenter, and I'm like, who is this guy? And immediately started liking him. With that said, Dustin Poirier seems like the nicest, most genuine, real dude in the entire world. So for this fight, it's hard, really kind of hard for me to root against Dustin. And like you guys said, $7,100 for a 5-round fight with the resume that Dustin has after that fight he just had with Dan Hooker, that's unreal. This should be like Conor should probably be a favorite just because he won before, but a 150 favorite maybe. These odds are crazy. At $7,100, I don't blame you guys for taking them. I'm a huge Conor fan, and I thought about taking them. But the way my lineup worked out and just my love for Conor, I took Conor. He is in my lineup. I don't have Dustin in there, but I think Dustin can win. I think, like you guys said, if he turns this into the Dan Hooker fight, he's going to win that fight. He's going to find a way to outwork Conor. Conor, he's a worker, but he's like he says, he calls himself a painter. He's an artist in there. He wants to be, he flows. And I think like what Dan said, if Poirier gets in there early and gets dirty with him, it's going to throw off his rhythm. The edge is with Conor, though, as far as just mentally. He just, some reason, just mentally breaks people. I think even him being so humble and so nice this week to Dustin, I think kind of threw Dustin off. And when you hate someone the way that Dustin talks about how he hated Conor back in the day, think about all the people that you've hated. You don't just not hate them. So I think as much as Dustin wants to talk about how he's put off the emotion and stuff, I think when he stares across Conor in that octagon, he's going to remember how much he hated Conor. He's going to come out a little too aggressive and get caught like everyone else has. So I have Conor in this. I think he gets the job done early, and but I have no quorums with anyone taking Dustin at $7,100. That's behind Chandler at $7,700. Dustin at $7,100 is incredible value.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's honestly a solid card, and this is a really good fight. I agree with everything, literally everything. That's why it's sort of a tough pick. And Dan was 100% correct when these odds are outrageous, just absolutely outrageous. I mean, if you think Dustin's going to win, throw money on Dustin, because you're never going to see these odds again for somebody that could do something like this in a fight like this. That's crazy. So we'll see what happens.
I'm putting more money on Poirier tonight, actually. I think the odds are going more in favor of McGregor because all that McGregor fan money's coming in.
Yeah.